Police officers that have not received their salaries, some for 6 months, others 2 months, others 4 months, and the reason was connected with the Ministry of Public Service. And I see the Minister of Public Service here, Right Honorable Speaker. Can she explain why police officers have not been paid their salaries? And these are people who are actually holding.
Please, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I want to thank Honorable Sarah because she already alerted me. I contacted the commissioner in charge of compensation. He said that Minister of Internal Affairs is coming up with a paper which will be presented here by the minister himself, but tentatively he told me the problem was migration from IPPS to HCM. And if you are migrating from IPPS to HCM and you have any slight mistake maybe on your ID or your papers or your years, it is not easy to migrate automatically. So they are going to align their documents to make sure they are migrated smoothly. But at the moment, let's wait for, I beg that we wait for the full report from the minister. I beg to submit, sir.
But Honorable Minister, what I may ask is, once that migration is done, even the arrears would be paid. And then when do you think this can be expeditiously handled?
The arrears will be paid, Right Honorable, except I cannot commit when they will be paid because I need technical guidance on this.
Thank you.
I thank you, sir.
Honorable Minister, please, you and the Minister of Internal Affairs should expedite this. These are people with firearms, you know. They might run hungry and, yes, and you remember how we lost our colleague here in the House? So having a hungry person with a firearm guarding you, Honorable Minister, even you yourself, you're not secure. So you better expeditiously handle. Next.
Item 3.5, Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry.
Honorable Chair, 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me lay the report of the Sectoral Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry on the Ministerial Policy Statement and Budget Estimates for the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives for the financial year 2025-2026. I beg to. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me lay the minutes of the meeting for the Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry for Right Honorable Speaker, the compliance of ministerial policy statements, relevant provisions of the law, colleagues who read that. There is a status table showing their compliance. I'll go straight to the recommendations. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Trade should ensure that all votes, provisions of the law, and the requirements of the MPS. Right Honorable Speaker, on table 2 is the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, and the table below shows the status of compliance.
If you could guide on the page, it's important.
Right Honorable Speaker, page 6. Thank you.
Why don't we go to page 38?
30. I was going there, Right Honorable Speaker. Just thought I would hint on this. Right Honorable Speaker, as you've guided, we go to page 38 for the observations and recommendations. Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, NPS for financial year 2025-2026. Right Honorable Speaker, below there is delayed implementation of new laws and review of old ones. That's page 38. Parliament, while considering the budget for financial year 2025-2026, recommended that Ministry of Trade be availed 3 billion to operationalize the Accreditation Services Act and Sugar Act. However, this was not done, and the implementation of the two acts has not been funded in the proposed budget for financial year 2025-2026. Right Honorable Speaker, there are other bills below there that the committee also highlighted. I'll go to the recommendation. The committee recommends that government allocates funds to operationalize the Accreditation Services Act and the Sugar Act. Government fast tracks the tabling of the proposed bills before Parliament for processing. All right, Honorable Speaker, I'll go straight to page 40. The committee recommends that government allocates funds to Ministry of Trade to facilitate implementation of the aforementioned acts as indicated in the Certificate of Financial Implications that accompany the respective bills and expedites addressing the key policy issues identified above. Honorable Speaker, the committee further recommends that government expedites the enactment of regulations to support implementations of some acts of Parliament that regulate the manufacturing program. The need to sustainably reduce the trade balance, right there, right, Honorable Speaker. The committee observed that the trade balance has been worsening over the last 8 years in the country's exports, continue to grow slower than the imports, except during the financial year 2023-2024. The balance of goods and services deteriorated by 2.5 US dollars, 121 million in the financial year 2023-2025 to that. Right, Honorable Speaker, allow me go straight to the recommendations. Colleagues can read that. The committee recommends that government expeditiously implements its exports promotion and import substitution strategy to sustain faster growth in exports while slowing down the growth in imports so as to reverse the trade in the trade balance sustainably. Right, Honorable Speaker, the need to fund trade negotiations. The committee observes that Uganda shillings 3.5 billion has been availed to the External Trade Department and the Ministry of Trade for various activities, including 1.25 billion for trade attaches, in brackets, one in Arusha for East Africa Community and the other in Ghana for African Continental Free Trade Area, leaving a balance of 2.3 billion for other departmental activities, including trade negotiations. Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee was informed that there has a funding gap of 6.4 billion required to follow up the implementation of bilateral, regional and international trade protocols at WTO, COMESA, East Africa, and the African Continental Free Trade Area, as well as access to the US market. The committee observes that Ministry of Trade identified 6 key markets for deployment of trade attaches at East African Community, WTO, COMESA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, China and India. However, the proposed budget for financial year 2025-2026 will only fund 2 in East Africa and the African Continental Free Trade Area in order to boost trade and investment opportunities and advocate for favorable trade relations. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'll go straight to the recommendations. The committee recommends that government allocates 3.8 billion to facilitate deployment of trade attaches in key markets at WTO, COMESA, China and India. The committee further recommends that in order to support export growth, government allocates additional 6.4 billion to Ministry of Trade to prioritize implementation of bilateral, regional and international trade agreements and protocols. Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee also noted delayed verification of tobacco farmers. I'll go to the recommendation. The committee recommends that Ministry of Trade expedites verification of claims by West Nile tobacco farmers to ensure that they are compensated by the end of financial year 2024-2025. Right, Honorable Speaker, the stalled projects under Uganda warehouse receipt system. The committee observed that prior to rationalization of government agencies which witnessed, among others, the transfer of the functions of Uganda warehouse receipt system into the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Uganda warehouse receipt system has embarked on a project to renovate selected warehouses to enable them meet international standards as well as implement the warehouse receipt system. Among the warehouses selected for renovation are Hoima District Farmers Association, HODIFA, and Bunyoro Growers Cooperative Union, which the committee had the opportunity to visit during one of its oversight functions in February 2025. Right Honorable Speaker, because of time, allow me go to the recommendations of the warehouse receipt system. The committee recommends that government allocates funds to Ministry of Trade to enable completion of the stalled projects under the warehouse receipt system, so as to ensure value for money for investment carried out before rationalization. The committee notes that the process leading to project approvals can take up to 5 years, yet the facilities for value addition keep deteriorating every passing year. The committee further recommends that Ministry of Trade only signs new MOUs with other groups after the projects have been approved by the Development Committee and a code given. Right Honorable Speaker, return on investments by UDC, that's page 45. UDC has established to promote and facilitate industrial and economic development in Uganda. As the government's investment arm, UDC drives industrial growth by establishing subsidiary and associate companies, forming private partnerships with commercial industries or agricultural enterprises, and promoting, facilitating, and implementing public-private partnerships. UDC also assists in financing and managing projects that promote industrial or economic development, as well as conduct research into industrial development. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee observed that government through UDC has been investing in various SMEs. The committee received information from UDC on the current impact of investment, which reveals that the investment have created over 2,000 jobs in the agro industry and over 1,500 in the infrastructure services. There is an annex. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee observes that government's investment in a number of UDC projects as seen in Annex 1 have supported the economy through job creation, export earnings, tax revenue. However, some investments have only contributed to job creation without any impact on export earnings or tax revenue by December 2024. These include Budadi Arabica Coffee Mills, Atiak Sugar Factory, Nauzila Limited, Resort Convention Center. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that as government's investment arm, UDC should ensure that private entities where government invests funds have more economic returns in terms of tax revenue and export earnings. Right Honorable Speaker, inadequate funding of UDC for investment. The committee observed that during consideration of the National Budget Framework Paper, financial year 2025-2026 to 2029-2030, UDC had a total budget of 14 billion, only catering for 11 billion wage and non-wage 21. Right Honorable Speaker, there were no funds to fulfill UDC's ongoing capitalization commitments, such as to Abeka, Technical Services, and General Supplies, which is 26 billion, and new commitments to already appraised funds. Right Honorable Speaker, following Parliament's recommendation to capitalize UDC with at least 361 billion for the various projects, additional funding was allocated to UDC, increasing its budget to 125 billion, which shall enable it cater for investments in some projects, though it shall leave a funding gap of 266 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, below is the table of investment projects for financial year 2025-2026 with its figures in billions. Colleagues can read. I'll go straight to the observations on UDC. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee noted that while some projects have more proposed allocations than indicated in the National Budget Framework Paper, others receive less. For instance, Zika Enterprises received a funding requirement of 28.9 billion, but has a proposed allocation of 39.77 billion in the draft budget estimates for financial year 2025-2026, while investments in Grain Afrokai has a proposed allocation of 9 billion against a funding gap of 25 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee noted that Nzika Enterprise Limited was reported to be an integrated poultry enterprise engaged in production and sale of day-old chicken animal feeds farms. However, by the time the committee prepared this report, it had not been furnished with sufficient information to provide a basis for appropriating 39.77 billion to Nzika Enterprise Limited. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes that fine spinners received 30 billion in the financial year 2024-2025, and that 30 billion has been proposed in financial year 2025-2026 out of 31 billion that was required. While other projects like Lira spinning mill that required 59 billion to purchase and revamp the factory to undertake spinning of the farmers' cotton has no proposed allocation despite a feasibility study being completed. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee notes that while enterprises like Bundibujo Cocoa Processing Factory has had a feasibility study completed, there is no proposed allocation made in financial year 2025-2026. The ministry informed the committee that UDC lacks sufficient capitalization and requires 5 billion to fulfill its mandate. Right Honorable Speaker, let me go to the recommendations for UDC. The committee recommends that government capitalizes UDC with additional funding in the short to medium term to enable it to invest in appraised projects. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee further recommends that the proposed allocation through UDC to Nzika Enterprise Limited and fine spinners be reallocated as follows. Allocation of 39.77 billion to Nzika Enterprise to be deferred as the committee undertakes due diligence on the proposed investment. Right Honorable Speaker, it was reallocated as follows. Uganda shilling 6 billion be reallocated to Bundibujo Cocoa Factory to support its startup to promote export of value-added cocoa as opposed to raw materials and earn the country higher economic returns from cocoa value chain. Right Honorable Speaker, 4 billion be reallocated to invest in chlorine manufacturing plant to improve the country's trade balance through a reduction in cost of importation of chlorine, which is a key ingredient in wastewater treatment, pure water treatment and disinfectant. Right Honorable Speaker, 25 billion be allocated to Fine Spinners Limited to fulfill its obligation in a phased manner and enable investment in other projects. Right Honorable Speaker, E, that is page 49, 10 billion be reallocated to Lira Spinning Mill to initiate the purchase and revamping of the factory to undertake spinning of farmers' cotton in northern Uganda. 5 billion be allocated to Luweero Fruit Factory to start up investments since the feasibility study and the business plans were completed. 5 billion be reallocated to Noya Fruit Factory to start master site preparation. 6.7 billion be allocated to the iron ore processing to save the importation of iron, improve the country's trade balance through reduction in the cost of importation of iron ore. Right Honorable Speaker, finally, 8 billion relocated to Sanga Vet to purchase active ingredients, special equipments and working capital for manufacturing of animal drugs and acaricides. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll go to the Management and Training and Advisory Center, that is MTAC, which I'll go straight to the recommendation of MTAC. The committee recommends that Ministry of Finance and Economic Development ensures that the budgetary provision of MTAC is provided for in the financial year 2025-2026 to enable it to continue with service delivery. And below is the inadequate fundings for MTAC. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that government should, in the short term to medium term, support MTAC by funding the proposed interventions above. Page 51, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, UCAL. Revival of Uganda Cooperative Bank. I'll go straight to the recommendations, Right Honourable Speaker, because of time. The committee recommends that government allocates 2.5 to UCAL to mobilize resources and conduct research to facilitate the re-establishment of Uganda Cooperative Bank.
2.5 what?
Speaker, Right Honourable Speaker, 2.5 billion, I beg. I'll go to Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Retention of staff. The committee observed that the budget for UNBS for financial year 2025-2026 increased from the indicative figures in the BFP as summarized in the table below. So colleagues can just read through the table. The committee observed, that's page 53, the committee observed that in financial year 2024-2025, the budget for NBS was 59 billion, which has been increased to 138.3 billion, while the wage component has not increased. The non-wage and development budgets have increased by 46.7 billion and 30 billion respectively. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee takes note of the increase in UNBS's non-wage budget as well as the development budget that is to address decentralization of UNBS services as recommended by Parliament. However, the committee is concerned that the non-provision of additional wage bill to cater for salary enhancement of staff to match that of other scientists, as well as retained staff, has not been implemented and may pose a challenge for implementation of the budget with no critical staff to execute it. Right Honourable Speaker, below there it talks about salaries of other scientists in the other entities compared to UNBS. I'll go straight to recommendations on page 54. The committee recommends to reallocate 10 billion for non-wage component of UNBS as 5.8 billion for enhance of salaries for existing staff, 4.2 billion for recruitment of more staff. Right Honourable Speaker, I'll go to page 55, vote 110, Uganda Industrial Research Institute. Inadequate funding of Uganda Industrial Research Institute. I'll go to the recommendations. The committee recommends that government allocates 9.8 billion to Uganda Industrial Research Institute to ensure that the above critical activities are undertaken in the short to medium term. The committee further recommends that government facilitates Uganda Industrial Research Institute to decentralize its services across different regions of the country. The committee further recommends timely graduation of incubators domiciled at Uganda Industrial Research Institute Nakawa campus to give opportunity to new incubators to showcase and build their capacities. Right Honourable Speaker, Uganda Free Zones and Exports Promotion Authority. Staff recruitment. The committee recommends that recruitment of staff under Uganda Free Zones Authority be expedited to facilitate implementation of UZEPA planned activities for the remaining part of financial year 2024-2025 and the new financial year 2025-2026. Local governments need to revise the formula for trade and industrial grant to local government. The committee observed that the increment in the budget from 2.9 billion to 8 billion for trade and industrial conditional grants to local government is a positive move towards enabling commercial officers execute roles in their respective local governments, which include trade development, promotional services, cooperative mobilization, supervision, education, extension services, market, and the like. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee recommends that government reviews the formula for distribution of the trade and industry non-wage conditional grants to local government, with the view of increasing the weight assigned to the fixed allocations to minimize on the disparities, since functions of commercial officers are the same. On the table above there, you can see the disparities. Different districts receive different monies. The committee further recommends that Ministry of Finance sensitizes all local governments on the procedures of accessing transitional development Development Trade and Industry Grant to enable other qualifying local governments benefit from the same. Right Honourable Speaker, on that one we had noted that only one district, one local government received 790 million, which is Chivale, and no any other district received it, so the committee recommended as above. Right Honourable Speaker, Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, inadequate funding to the Tourism Development Program. The committee observed that the current funding to the Tourism Development Program is inadequate and unable to deliver on its mandate to the NDP4 as well as the tenfold growth strategy. The proposed budget for the program is 77% of the recommended budget for the program in financial year 2025-2026. Allow me go to the recommendations, Right Honourable Speaker. The committee recommends that government adequately funds the Tourism Development Program in order for the program to contribute to the tenfold growth strategy and double digital growth at the end of the NDP4. The committee recommends that government prioritizes funding of the Tourism Development Program in order to enhance marketing of Uganda as a preferred tourist destination to boost the country's foreign exchange and domestic economy, among others, while at the same time addressing the enablers for the long stay, especially upgrading the UHTTI to a tourism training center of excellency and the UWTI to the Wildlife Research and Training Center of Excellency. Funding for review of program policies and regulatory framework. Honourable Speaker, I'm about to finish. The committee observes that Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities requires 2 billion to review existing laws, regulations and policies for comprehensive management of the Tourism Development Program. The reviews will enable the ministry develop a legal and regulatory framework to include the following. Below are the different laws, Right Honourable Speaker. We'll go to the committee recommends that government allocates an additional 2 billion to Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities to enable the review of the policy and regulatory framework of the Tourism Development Program. Right Honourable Speaker, critical staffing gaps in the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. The committee observed that Ministry of Wildlife, Tourism and Antiquities is faced with staffing gaps, particularly at the level of commissioner, where it was noted that all 4 positions of commissioners for wildlife conservation, sites and monuments, tourism development, and museum services are vacant. The committee noted that these vacant positions are crucial in the operation of the ministry. However, these vacant positions are not in the ministry's recruitment plan for financial year 2025-2026, but were in the financial year 2024-2025 recruitment plan, which were affected by RAPEX, and will therefore be filled later as guided by the Public Service Commission. Recommendation. The committee recommends that Public Service Commission simultaneously recruits staff to vacant positions in Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, while at the same time handling recruitment of staff for government agencies that were affected by RAPEX, in order to ensure that the ministry has staff to provide strategic direction and implement policies. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee recommends that going forward, Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities should embark on new projects after concluding ongoing projects. Honourable Speaker, that is picked from need to complete ongoing projects before embarking on new projects. Allow me, Right Honourable Speaker, I'd skip to the observation that the committee had observed that Ministry of Wildlife and Antiquities on page 61 embarked on execution of new planned projects before the conclusion of earlier projects. For example, construction works at Katosimata's Catholic Shrine, yet projects such as Napak Open Air Museum and Karamoja Museum were pending completion and funding gaps of 5 billion and 0.7 billion respectively. So the other one was talking to that. Right Honourable Speaker, Uganda Wildlife Authority. Need to lift the ceiling of Uganda Wildlife Authority to address human-wildlife conflict. The committee observed that incidents of human-wildlife conflict constitute one of the major challenges faced by the Tourism Development Program. However, the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities has not been allocated adequate funds to address the incidences. The committee noted that wildlife resources continue to be threatened by the increasing human-wildlife conflict, and a total of 6,999 incidences of human-wildlife conflicts were recorded over the last 1 year, which is way higher than the 2,000 incidents recorded 5 years ago. Right Honourable Speaker, I will read that below. The proposed total budget, let me just go to what the committee recommends. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee was informed by UWA that it has a funding gap of 48 billion for the various activities, including installation of an electric fence as extracted in table 24 below. Those are the funding gaps, and where UWA wants to put electric fences in the different parks up to down there. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee therefore recommends that government lifts the budget ceiling for UWA from Uganda shillings 191.9 billion to 240 to enable UWA spend as follows: 38 billion to address incidences of human-wildlife conflict in Kidepo Valley National Park, Maction Falls National Park, Queen Elizabeth National Park, among others, for the 9 activities in the table above, the one we had showed. 6.2 billion to Uganda Wildlife Research Training Institute for completion of the girls' hostel. 3.8 billion to UHTTI for ongoing construction of the girls' hostel. Honourable Speaker, I am concluding. Accountability of local governments on UWA revenue shared. The committee recommends that UWA and local government develop a framework to expedite accountability for the resources received from UWA for local governments, neighboring wildlife protected areas, in order to ensure timely remittance of the allocated funds. Honourable Speaker, I am finally Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute. Inadequate funding of Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute to deliver on its mandate. Page 65, the committee recommends that affirmative action be undertaken to ensure that UHTTI is transferred into a tourism training center for excellency through provision of required staff, instruction, infrastructure, as well as construction of dormitories for students. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee further recommends that the budget expenditure ceiling of UWA be lifted to enable at least 3.8 billion from UWA Wildlife Fund to be given to UHTTI to partly complete construction of the new training hotel, as well as continue with construction of the girls' hostel. Uganda Wildlife Research Training Institute, page 66, inadequate funding of Uganda Wildlife Research Institute. The committee recommends that government takes affirmative action to fund Uganda Wildlife Research Institute so as to transform it into a Centre of Excellence for Wildlife Research Institute through provision of required staff equipments and well as adequate funds for construction of dormitories. The committee further recommends that government lifts the budget expenditure ceiling for UWA so that at least 6.2 billion from UWA Wildlife Refund is transferred to Uganda Wildlife Research Institute to facilitate construction of dormitories. Finally, Right Honourable Speaker, Uganda Tourism Board need to explore cost-effective strategies for marketing. The committee observed that UTB is taking a traditional approach to tourism, focusing on manual branding, expos, international meetings, advertising, and promotions, primarily focusing on using costly media platforms like CNN and BBC, despite shifting trends that favor more engaging, updated tourism promotion and cost-effective marketing strategies, like the use of social media platforms, for example, TikTok, X, YouTube, among others, which are more interactive with the people. The committee recommends, therefore, Right Honourable Speaker, that UTB adopts modern methods of advertising that are more cost-effective and interactive with the people, for example, the use of social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, among others. The committee further recommends that UTB utilizes available spaces, for example, Uganda Airlines and Uganda embassies and missions abroad to advertise Uganda, which would significantly reduce on the cost incurred using expensive international media like CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, and foreign commercial airlines. The committee further recommends that UTB should, page 68, that UTB should explore alternative results-oriented tourism promotion and collaborations with private sector to sell Uganda to the outside world, for instance, social media influencers. The committee further recommends that UTB recruits destination representatives in key tourism markets with measurable output targets, so as to leverage on existing investments such as commercial airlines that support Uganda tourism development program. Finally, local governments. Underfunding for tourism development in local government. The committee observed that the conditional grants to local government for tourism development amounts to 1.9 billion in financial year 2025-2026. The draft budget estimates for financial year 2025-2026 indicates that 10 billion is allocated to each local government, which transforms into quarterly allocation of 2.7 billion, 2.714 million or 904,000 per month for tourism development intervention. The local governments play a critical role in promoting and maintaining of cultural tourism as well as domestic tourism in various LGs. The committee therefore recommends that government increases conditional tourism development grant in the short of medium term. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues. Members, the Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the committee considered the ministerial policy statement of the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives and Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities for financial year 2025-2026 and recommended the report be adopted with the following amounts of money allocated to the various votes as indicated in the table below. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Numbers, I open up for debate. Honorable Numbers. Honorable Enos. Honorable Christine. Kamwenge. Honorable Sylvia. Then Chair of Foreign Affairs. Then Dr. Batua. Then Honorable Nkunyinji. Oh, and the tourism man, Kisoro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the chairperson
3 minutes each, honorable colleagues,
and the honorable members of the Committee on Trade for this report. And without wasting time, I want to go to the issue of UDC, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we have heard that now the committee has recommended that the funds that had been earmarked for BNZICA be reallocated to other institutions, but she has not explained in detail why BNZICA failed to qualify. Right Honorable Speaker, BNZICA is a company that got into problems not because of mismanagement from what we know, but because of the COVID problem. And this is a company that deals with our local people, people who are in chicken rearing, people who are selling their produce to BNZICA, and then it employs many of our people, both directly and indirectly. Right Honorable Speaker, there is also a mix-up, because I was following when the minister went to the committee. He told the committee that the company that was being talked about is BNZICA, an international company. Whereas, when you look at the ministerial policy statement, they are talking about BNZICA, the portrait company. So I want to know for sure, which of the two are we talking about? And two, about the funds that were allocated. At one time, they mentioned the budget framework paper. They talk about 289 billion. Then they also talk about 391 billion in the ministerial policy statement for recapitalizing of the UDC. So I want to know for sure, what is the correct amount and where that this money, the rest of the money is going to go. But Mr. Speaker, it appears that when government is coming to bail out companies, there are no clear guidelines that are used apart from favorism from those who are giving the monies. And you will see that some people have been bailed out more than once, but others, even with very clear reasons like Zika, cannot be considered, Mr. Speaker. So,
thank you. Yes. I read this report, and I was also asking myself about the same. Honorable numbers in line with you. Number one, the company had a funding requirement of 28.9 billion. But now, in the draft estimates, the committee is saying they have given it 39.77 billion. So, if it wanted 28, why are you giving it 39? That's number one. Number two, which beings, like you've said, because I remember it was even big in papers. Inzika was bought by an investor. Now, has he formed a new one which he wants now government buying shares? Where they want government to be an investor? I think this is the question. Oh, Minister for Trade, where is the Minister for Trade? This is a question which we should, because we know Inzika was bought by an international, which is doing well, by the way, because some of us, we buy their things. The main Inzika, it's doing extremely well. It was bought by the best breeder, the number one American breeder, and he has invested heavily. Now, if you sell, and then after selling, you form another company, so government also come, you buy in more shares. How? So we need to go deep. And I think that's where you need to check on appraising. The committee should help us understand. Then, number two, now committee, I'm fearing. You have started saying allocate so and so, the money in terms of companies. And we doing the work of the board of appraising. Because the companies we are saying should be now given this money which was for Inzika. Who has appraised them? Okay, because the appraising process should be by the board and should go deeper and all that. Chair, you will need to clarify to us on the appraisal process and how you determine that this company should be getting this money. But we need that clarification between the two Inzikas. Okay? Yes, I picked. Like fine spinners, really. I think we've done tax holidays. What? Honorable Enos.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. My concern is page 7. The committee is showing us that the policy statements did not attach a certificate from Ministry of Finance regarding Equal Opportunities Commission or equal opportunities, meaning that they do not conform. The policy statements do not conform to equal opportunities or equal distribution. A few weeks ago, we had a very serious debate regarding equity. Do you think passing these policy statements without that certificate, we are actually failing ourselves? Number two, Right Honourable Speaker, on page 8, they're also saying the policy statements do not meet the climate change responsiveness at a percentage of 46.7. Yet that is specifically manufacturing. I do not understand how we also pass a policy statement or a budget where they are not meeting climate change, with even the most recent floods in this city and all the climate change related challenges. Right Honourable Speaker, I don't know whether we should proceed to pass these two policy statements. Number 3, in case we decide to pass them, I had an issue also on page 43 regarding installed warehouse receipt system, warehouse authority, formally. Right Honourable Speaker, the purpose of the warehouse was to help us stabilize the farm gate prices for our farmers in the grain industry. Right now, if we do not fund the warehouse receipting system, it implies that we are failing again our farmers on managing the farm gate prices. Lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, As much as my colleague had mentioned something to do with UDC having a policy guideline regarding on who is selected to benefit from this, I think when you look at page 45, the committee is again telling us that the selection criteria is not well followed, to a point that it looks like they don't even have feasibility studies made on these companies. I think it's important that the Honourable Minister takes us through why it's so hard to have a policy guideline on who benefits on what regard.
The polythene bags, Mr. Speaker, because the plastics, the plastics are causing more destruction to this country. How I pray that as we look at the import substitution in this country, priority should be given to such factories that will be produced.
Thank you. Colleagues, in the public gallery, we have students of TESO Students Development Association, Chambogo University. They've come to observe proceedings of this house. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Honorable Ramwaka.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I join colleagues in thanking the Chairperson Committee of Trade, Tourism and Industry and their team for the report tabled on the floor. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to thank the committee on their observation regarding the marketing strategies UTB is using and the recommendation that they made for UTB to adopt modern strategies in marketing tourist destinations. Right Honourable Speaker, when you look at Uganda as a country, in the tourism sector, we have got a lot of potentials in terms of the tourism products that we have compared to other countries within the region, Mr. Speaker, sir. But when you look at the marketing strategies and what other countries within the region are putting in terms of investment in marketing their destinations is quite a lot and amazing, Mr. Speaker, sir. And of course, when you look at what we are putting in as a country in marketing our destinations, there's still a lot that we need to do. Right Honourable Speaker, it is my humble appeal and prayers that the tourism sector, through the Minister present here, should focus at strategically planning with our missions in the different countries of strategic market destinations so that we are able to reap a lot more. Our missions are trying to do a lot, but then based on our findings also, in number of times that we have visited our missions, we have realized that there are gaps in terms of linkages between the sector of tourism and our missions abroad. So it is really my humble appeal that we need to get very aggressive as a country in marketing our tourist destinations, and also it is important, as the committee stated, that we need to invest money, put money in marketing our destinations for us to reap a lot from the abundant tourist products that we have as a country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Honorable Hirira, followed by Honorable Kwizera.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I also thank the chairperson and the Committee of Trade for a comprehensive report. Right Honourable Speaker, I take note that Uganda Industrial Research Institute and MTAC are very critical institutions that, when allocated more funds, can really put very significant skills, equipment to our people. Because, for example, we always endeavor, some of us do always endeavor to bring some few trainees to these sites. But when they have sufficient funds and these trainings are scaled down to, decentralized to the districts, it will help us, these institutions, train more people, a bigger number of people, and we reduce on unemployment in our districts, because they train skills, hands-on, and immediately people start working. So I would also support the committee on their recommendations of the billions, the 9.8 billions, for example, they are recommending that we give to URI. It is worth it. Then, Right Honourable Speaker, on the tourism sector, the report, according to the committee, they are showing us that a human-wildlife conflict is not well addressed, and basically because of funding. If we not, if this sector does not have enough funding, people will continue to hate wild animals. People will continue to see that the government treasures animals than human beings. For example, in my area in Kamwenge, the elephants are encroaching on people so much, and people have continued up to now, shifting to Chegegwa, Chenjojo, Bunyoro area, and it is so devastating in this century when we see people still shifting because of human-wildlife conflict. And of course, the policies that the first priority is grassland national parks. Kibale National Park is a forest national park. But if we allocate them more money to review their policies, then there we could come for the forest national parks. Then lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, the budget for tourism in districts, local government districts, is surely insufficient, because for us, we have like around 1,200 chimpanzees in.
Thank you. Honorable Wagahungu. You can use another microphone. Colleagues, at 4:30 we are breaking off. We have the Archbishop here.
Right Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I want to thank the committee for the good work they have done. I will focus on tourism, right honorable. Tourism would be starting with the domestic tourism, where like members of a cabinet, if they visited one of the national parks, then the tourism would grow. Or if members of parliament would also find time and go and visit. But it is unfair for the tourism operators like us to be here. We are talking about tourism. You talk about mountain chimpanzees, your mountain gorillas, and a number of these members of parliament and the members of the members of cabinet have never even spent 10,000 to go and visit those national parks. So let us start from, before we look at the foreigners to come here, we ourselves first go and visit these tourism destination areas. Secondly, Uganda is now focusing on petroleum, but petroleum is time bound, and they are not focusing on tourism. Tourism is forever. So I would appeal to government that as much as you are focusing on petroleum, which is going to last maybe 20, maybe 15 years, let us also see how we can promote and benefit from our tourism. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, we find that government focuses on the tourism national areas, but when you look at the amount of money put in the national parks and the livelihood of the people around the national park, there is a very, very big disparity. So we would encourage the government, as much as you are focusing on the tourism to national parks, also take into consideration to develop or to contribute to the welfare of the people in the surrounding areas. Finally, when you look at the marketing of our tourism products, they need to be identified, profiled, and well marketed. Marketing of tourism does not mean that we travel outside, but we can also do it the Tanzania way, where we use our UBC machines to create a tourism channel that can also be accessed by international community, and we spend less. Mr. Speaker, we think that if we do those things, we also put that infrastructure to promote tourism. Are we having efficient IT system in the national parks? Do we have good roads? Do we have telephone communications? So otherwise, these policies are good, but also we want the same implemented. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Muada, then Honorable Dr. Batua.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and the committee chair for the report, or the committee for the report. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I'm concerned. The report talks about meeting our international trade obligation, especially in terms of treaties and agreements, and also talks about sending or deploying trade attaches. But I've looked through the entire report, trying to internalize Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Part of the challenge we have, you are talking about strengthening certification locally, I mean for imports. But our traders still face a challenge of certification for export. At most of the international markets, mostly Europe, Ugandan goods, especially agricultural products, are being branded made in Kenya, made in Tanzania, and the report from the traders has always been failure by UNBS to issue certification, especially for agricultural products, meant for international markets and mostly European markets. I'm just praying and looking through your report. Where is the empowerment? Why don't we also look into prioritizing, strengthening UNBS so that it has capacity to certify agricultural products? The traders are meeting the cost of destruction for commodities which fail to meet the standards, especially for European markets. And now that we're in a budgetary process, many times the excuse has been that UNBS says it lacks capacity and readiness, and even it says it lacks the obligation to certify agricultural products. And that has led for many of our goods to be branded from nearby countries, mostly Kenya. And when you go to international markets, most of goods, agricultural products, branded as made in Kenya, are actually Ugandan goods. Now, this denies us opportunity of marketing Ugandan products and also developing Ugandan traders. Let's look through the report and find empowerment for UNBS to certify agricultural products locally here. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Honorable Batua.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Through you, I thank the committee chairperson and the members for a wonderful report. However, it gave me deep insight on UDC, and especially the part that money for Luwero Fruit Factory, money for Nyoya Fruit Factory, money for Lila Spring Mill, Bondibujo Cocoa Project, and others is channeled through UDC to facilitate those particular industries. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, at the beginning of this political term, in Busoga, where we are challenged with the sugarcane growing, we sat as MPs, we are 42 of us, including the first Deputy Prime Minister, the second, and others, and we resolved that government should actually help us establish a sugar mill that is owned by the people. The finance minister came and participated. What we saw immediately was a release of about 2.5 billion for a feasibility study. But even when that study has been done, I can see in this policy statement and in the report that the sugar mill that was promised to the people of Busoga is not there. And we know how serious the sugar business in Busoga is. Right now there is a war between the farmers and the millers over how much sugar you can get from 100 tons of cane. Whereas the farmers say it is 10 tons, the millers say it is 8. And it has an implication on how much you pay for the cane. So these are serious things. Who the biggest solver would have been a factory owned by the people. And if you look at the number of trucks that are supplied in Busoga, 2,000 trucks a day, each truck carrying 10 tons. If we are to charge just 5,000 shillings per ton, we generate 100 million per day. And in a year, 36.5 billion is generated. So the money we are requesting to actually put up this facility is money that can be paid back from the farmers and with minimum effort. But it has not been put in the report. You wonder, those regions that are really benefiting, what criteria is being followed? If it was population, the region is the second most populated. If it is tax, if you look at the 10 highest tax-paying companies, MTN being number 1, on the list of 10, 4 are from the region. You find Kakira, Bujagali Energy, if you allow me to give it perspective and say Umeme, because it was closed, but to give it perspective, the power it is selling, of course, comes from there. And then the beer company. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we feel we've been very neglected, grossly neglected, to the extent that even the 3 billion.
Thank you. Now, for the record, number 1, for the record, the second Deputy Prime Minister doesn't come from Busoga. It comes from Adjumani. Okay, from West Nile. Number 2, colleagues, I must tell you, we've made very good progress with the farmers and millers from Busoga. Honorable Batua, you know about this. Yes, and I can tell you the progress we reached and the conclusion we reached in this last meeting, which I chaired personally. Because I'm not from there, I don't have any interest. Okay? But they harmonized, and on Tuesday we shall sort the sugar bill. So if you want to consult them further, please, if they've changed the position, you tell us. They continue in this same state. But really, after a long negotiation, which was a very difficult one, they reached a compromise with each other, and they shook hands. So I hope on Tuesday we can sort the sugar bill, so that the law we have can at last define a formula, and people start benefiting. Because every day we don't sort out the issue of the formula, it's the miller who is benefiting. The farmer is not being helped in any way. Yeah? Rob? Rob, you have 2 minutes strictly, because the Archbishop has come.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Allow me to thank the chairperson for the committee and the members, honourable members, for their submissions. Right Honourable Speaker, I have a few points to put across, and my areas of concern is limited accessibility to affordable and inclusive financing. Right Honourable Speaker, this point was elaborated in the report. I'm trying to buttress it by alerting the committee that we should, they should also reconsider, and as a country, we should also reconsider re-establishing the cooperative bank, which will provide accessible financing to our people. Then secondly, Right Honourable Speaker, lack of prioritization for the trade negotiations. As a country, we have ratified different agreements across board, but I think we need to prioritize what we have ratified, especially in Africa. We have the African Continental Free Trade Area, whereby if we take, as a country, if we prioritize trading in the Africa, because we have opportunities across Africa, and even removing the trade non-tariff barriers. In East Africa, mainly, as if we are not in the EAC, we are having restrictions trading with even the people we are in the same community. So as a country, we need to talk about it, and our EAC member states, they have to show commitment for the East African community protocols. Then lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, the issue of tourism. Tourism, it's a big sector, but we don't give it priority as a country. I was told that gorillas in Uganda and chimpanzee, they spend their day in Rwanda and they come back at night to sleep in. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. As I wrap up, because they have their homesteads in Uganda. So in Rwanda, to see a chimpanzee or a gorilla, you pay more than $200. But in Uganda, I was told we only pay $100. So we have what we don't use as a country. So we should invest a lot in tourism so that we can expand our foreign exchange. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, the Chair and members, for this important report. We take note of just a few points because of time. One, the appreciation of the committee on the contribution of this sector into our GDP, mainly the industrial sector, which contributes 27.3%, manufacturing 16.5%, creating 1.4 jobs. So we truly want to thank you for that. And this has been because of the policy of import substitution, which we are seeing now that the products we are producing here are replacing those that we used to import. There are quite a few questions that were, concerns that were raised, namely on the funding by UDC to different companies. One, I want to clarify on BNZK, Mr. Speaker, that BNZK is an indigenous company that is interested in investing in animal feeds. And we thought that this sector, which is growing, should be supported by government. The requirement that we need is 45 billion. The amount of money that appeared previously was 28, but when we received the final figures from Minister of Finance, then the allocation that we proposed was 39. That explained the difference. So we think that by supporting this company, we are actually impacting on the import substitution of animal feeds and growing this sector. So we are of the opinion, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, that this money should not be reallocated. Instead, it should be increased. The second point is about fine spinners. Mr. Speaker, fine spinners, we have already signed an agreement and we are investing more money in the cotton sector. As you have seen, I don't know whether members have visited the fine spinners factory here in Bugorobi. It's doing a fantastic job. We are investing 58 billion. We have already paid 28 billion in the company. The remaining 31 billion is to import the factory lines. So we are of the opinion that reallocating 5 billion to other companies which are not yet ready will just stop the importation of this equipment. So the 5 billion, Mr. Speaker, I pray that as we go into the final arrangement, we should maintain 31.5 billion so that we import the equipment and start the factory. Because if we don't do that, then how shall we import part of the factory? Unfortunately, you can't import part of the equipment. You must import all the equipment that we need. And we are at the tail end. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg that as we finalize, let's maintain this 5 billion so that we import the equipment. Mr. Speaker, you are familiar with the manufacturing. If you are ordering for equipment, you can't order 95% of the equipment. It must come whole so that you start. The other issue is about certification, raised by my colleague opposite me. I want to inform you that government working with Minister of Trade, working with the Ministry of Agriculture, we have prepared a project to address all issues to do with exports, including standards, radiation, and all that. A project of around 174 million euro will be coming to this house by Minister of Finance to address post-harvest handling and all these issues. Then, including certification, then we shall impact on the exports that we have. Finally, is about the sugar mill of Busoga.
Mr. Speaker, I want the Minister to clarify how these companies are owned, because these are companies which are supposed to belong to investors. Yes, we come in by way of an MOU, but then if we are funding, like fine spinners, we gave them the buildings, we gave them the tax holidays, and now we are talking about even the most best key thing of importing machines. So what are they investing as investors? What do they bring? From the very word go, it appears as if this is a public company. What are they investing for them? What are they bringing?
Thank you. Hello, Minister.
We are not giving them free money. We are buying shares in these companies. And for example, yeah, the benefit is creation.
Now, Honourable Minister, you're the one on record.
The benefits are really many, because we are creating jobs, we are creating wealth for these people who are going to be doing cotton. So we are buying 40% of the shareholding in fine spinners. So it is not free money. Every company that we get interested in, where we know that we are going to make money, we buy shares. The proceeds from this investment is a proceed to Ugandans. So we are not giving free money. We are buying shares. We are doing business with them. That's the point. The last one is about sugar in Busoga. We are making good progress. We have purchased land. we have done all the feasibility studies. We need 134 billion to start a sugar factory, cereals factory in Busoga. That's what we are now proposing to have. The second one is Lila, which I've seen that you have recommended. Lila is a private company. They want government to purchase it at $8 million before we do the assessment of the investment. So I was of the opinion, Mr. Speaker, that when we reallocate and invest money, 10 billion to Lila millers, when actually it's not ready to receive this money, it will not be a good decision to make. Would rather maintain money where it is and then prepare to get the resources to fund Lila. Lila is in a private hands. It needs 8 million to be bought by government, $8 million, and then after that we talk about investment. So if Parliament says let us now reallocate it 10 billion, when we have not yet purchased it, it will not be a proper decision. So lastly,
no, just one minister on that. Honorable colleagues, please, honorable colleagues, we cannot do appraisal on the floor. Appraisal is the wrong process. It's a wrong process. You cannot sit here on the floor. We say this is the company we need. It's a company from our area. We have interest. It will help our farmers. And we say have 10 billion. No, there must be a very clear appraisal process. And that's why there is a board of UDC. So our focus should be giving a certain amount to UDC, and then UDC goes appraise these companies and see whether they qualify or not. Otherwise, we are going to make mistakes here on the floor. And how shall we ever do our oversight role when we are the ones who made mistakes here on the floor? So let us allow appraisal processes to go on well.
The last point, Mr. Speaker, is about the cooperative bank. We are determined to form a cooperative bank. As you know, to form a commercial bank in this country, you need over 100 billion. Over 100 billion. This might not be raised through appropriation as we speak. So the strategy we are now employing is to have the cooperators themselves, and they are willing to start a first-tier commercial bank, microfinance institution. Then after that, they graduate slowly, because we cannot have the 140 billion at a go. We'd rather start slowly, but move forward. So lastly, is really to thank members for the support you give to this sector. This year, we have received an additional 14 billion. UDC has been allocated 100 billion. As the Speaker says, it would be good to allow the board of UDC to make assessment of these companies, because we know them better. We understand this business. And the point would be for you to fight for more capitalization of UDC so that we can fund more companies. I want to thank you, members, for your support and your comments.
Minister for Tourism.
Thank you so much, Chair. I also want to thank the committee and the committee members for the good report. A few issues were raised, but I think the main one really is to do with the human-wildlife conflict. And I want to thank the committee for the good recommendation, because they were requesting that the UWA, Uganda Wildlife Authority ceiling, is raised so that we can have enough resources to fence most of these protected areas. And maybe one thing that Parliament needs to understand, we don't intend to get this money from the Ministry of Finance. Uganda Wildlife Authority is a money-generating entity, and it spends its own resources. So we have the money to fence mainly the 3 problematic parks, where we have done some work and where we have not started. So our request to finance is raise our ceiling by around 48 billion so that we can have enough resources to do the fencing. And we have the money. So the issue is really raising the funding. Right Honorable Speaker, I just want to maybe conclude, because the rest was mainly support. As a Minister of Tourism, we work with the missions. We are so far giving around 21 missions, some little money, maybe around 100 million. we know it's not enough, but because of the small budget we have, that's what we can afford. So is the issue of the local governments. But with time, when we have enough resources, we'll increase our support. In conclusion, the acting LOP made a statement that sometimes the gorillas are in Uganda, sleep here, and they wake up in... But these are natural resources. We tend to share them with our neighbors, but I just want to maybe inform the House that not necessarily. For you to track a gorilla, in conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker, for a foreigner to track a gorilla in Uganda, it will cost him around $800 just a day. It's slightly expensive on the side, but that's what we charge. But for Ugandan, it's around 250,000. And as I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker.
But Honorable Minister, also you should tell the LOP that instead it's the other way around. Gorillas are coming from the other side to stay in Uganda. Yes, yes. On the other side, they cross over. Because from the other side, they usually come back to look for the gorillas that have crossed over.
This side. So we share these resources. Yeah. But as I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Kwizera made a request to Right Honorable Speaker, because this is a directive you can give. The Honorable Kwizera made a suggestion that members of Parliament should take interest in visiting these resources. As a minister, would be glad to host them. We actually will give waivers for members of Parliament if they came in a group to visit our resources. But I want to assure you that...
Honorable, we want to pay. We don't want you to go on record on national television that you charge the rest of Ugandans and us you give us for free.
No, it's okay.
So please.
Yes.
Don't cause us trouble.
No, it's okay. It's okay, you can pay. But sometimes we have a marketing strategy, but we have no problem. We will receive you and take you through. But in conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker, and now maybe speaking to my brother, the acting LOP, and our brothers in opposition, that despite whatever we do as a Minister of Tourism, it doesn't matter how beautiful and how many resources and what we can showcase as a country this beautiful Pearl of Africa has. If the message we are sending to the rest of the world is negative about this country, we are washing clean and hanging in the mud.
Thank you.
So my request is, my brothers from NO, please, we are a sector employing almost 2 million Ugandans. So it's important that...
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you. Thank you. Please, we are done. No, we are done on this. Sorry. So, Honourable colleagues, I want to give this guidance. I have listened to the chair and I've read through the report. I have listened to the minister. It seemed there was a gap. There was a gap. Honourable Minister, it seemed there is additional information which the committee requested for and clarifications and you never gave. And for them, they had to process the statement based on the documents they had. Okay? So on the issue of being Zika, fine spinners, please avail the committee more information, more clarification, so that it's very clear before this money is redistributed. So that at budget committee level we can have it well harmonized, okay? Number two, I've seen also, I've read through different reports. I've seen Committee on Tourism has processed vote 110. Committee on Presidential Affairs has processed vote 110. I think we need to start moving together as a government. Because you see, this is a, colleagues and members of cabinet, this is a matter of the law. Okay? It's a matter of the law. The law is here. The Uganda Industrial Research Institute Act 2006. It places it under the minister in charge of industry. So I don't know how the Secretariat for Science and Technology, I have the law here. Okay? I have the law here. Even if you go, I have the law here. And even the directors, the heads, are appointed by the minister in charge of industry. Okay? So the law here in interpretation, the Uganda Industrial Research Institute Act 2006 interpretation, minister means the minister responsible for industry. Okay? So if you don't amend the law, you cannot work in anticipation. So as long as if you want to change something, go amend the law. If you don't amend the law, we go with existing law. Simple. So, Committee on Presidential Affairs, please, I will not disturb you with Yuri. If I'm even seeing discrepancies in figures. Let us, if government wants Yuri to go under Secretariat, because it's not a ministry, Secretariat of Science and Technology, let them amend the law. Yeah, they bring a proposal. Otherwise, we are going to be looking shabby here if we continue that way, okay? Honorable Chair, I wanted to make any clarification.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I had a small clarification that you have ably put up, Right Honorable Speaker. As the Committee on Trade and Tourism, we supported the Minister, though we were also our hands were tied down, especially with UDC, and I would really, through the Minister, in the next stage, to give us proper documentation on which BINZICA were we handling, because the BINZICAs were two different enterprises as per the Minister's submission, and many others, especially under UDC. But I would like to thank honorable colleagues for supporting us. I would like to thank members of my committee, and definitely you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, the issues of compliance, you didn't talk about them. Yes, compliance, there is no direct gender certificate for gender and equity for the vote.
Right Honorable Speaker, I actually inquired. The assessment was done, but the person who issues the certificate is Minister of Finance in collaboration with the Equal Opportunities. So the final mandate is not necessarily ours, but we got an assessment of how we performed as regards to those requirements.
But you see, once you know it's a requirement, as per the PFMA, you say, how do I carry this MPS to Parliament without this?
I request that we will follow up and have it availed to the committee.
So I think, honorable colleagues, we can ensure by the time of budgeting, reconciliation with the budget, okay, it is settled. So pursue that and ensure it is settled. Now, honorable colleagues, I'm going to frame this question in such a way, because it's very important that this money for BINZICA, for fine spinners, remain the way it was, okay, and until we bring the documents which prove it, okay. The moment the documents fail, then they go with the position of the committee. That justification is very, very important to be put, and this is at budget committee level, as per Rule 149(2) of our rules of procedure. So, honorable colleagues, I now put the question that the report of the committee on, I'm having very many reports, honorable colleagues. No. Okay, let me just use, yeah. Honorable colleagues, I would now put the question that the report of the Committee on Tourism, Trade and Industry on the Ministerial Policy Statement and Budget Estimates for the financial year 2025-2026 be adopted with the proposed amendment. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it. And the amendment is very, very clear. Okay, it is a stay. The money be as it is until, Honorable Minister, you bring the necessary documents to enable the chair go and present before the budget committee and justify your money, because it is the chair who will go there to justify it. If you don't, then they'll go ahead with the position of the committee. The report, the recommendations, and the proposed amendments are referred to the Committee on Budget, for harmonization, reconciliation, and consolidation, as provided for under Rule 49(2) of our Rules of Procedure. Honorable colleagues, House suspended until 5:30. We shall resume at 5:30. Let's go to join the Anglican chaplaincy. It's very important for Easter carols to join the Anglican chaplaincy. And we come back here, we do work.